So I'm sure you've been there before. You're deeply in love with your partner, you're wildly attracted to them, but when they touch you, you don't feel anything. Now, this isn't because your spark is gone, it's because stress gets to your body before desire does. Now, stress, obviously, it's our enemy. It's a thing that essentially sort of shuts our body down. And all those things, all those parts of yourself that are meant to feel pleasure, well, obviously, stress begins to break that down. So I'm going to explain exactly what's happening and how you can avoid it moving forward. Hi, I'm Scott Schwartley, and I'm the founder of Coelle, a guided intimacy app for couples. And so today what I want to do is really focus our conversation on the topic of stress, because stress really can have a negative impact on our sort of our sex lives, intimacy, and really specifically desire. And so what I want to start off with here is really just kind of the headline is when you have stress in your life, whether it's coming from work, whether it's coming from your family life, even hobbies or interests, whatever stress is entering your life, essentially what it's doing to you is it's putting you into survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, there are two specific things that I want to address in relation to that. So when you're in survival mode, number one here is your cortisol levels go up. So these are sort of those stress chemicals, elements that really can sort of wreak havoc on your body. And how that does this is it basically suppresses sort of the positive chemicals, that being dopamine and oxytocin. And dopamine and oxytocin, they're associated to all the things related to desire. So if you think about pleasure, if you think about connection, that's all dopamine and oxytocin. And so when cortisol kicks in, sort of those stress hormones or the stress chemicals, again, it's suppressing that, and that can be real dangerous territory. And so what you need to have here is first just have this basic level of awareness. And then number two is that it really changes your blood flow. And so when you're in survival mode, if you can think about it, your blood's going to go to those essential places, right? It's going to go to your heart, your brain, all these other places that kind of need to survive. Instead, it's not going to focus its time on your genitals, right? Which is where a lot of, obviously that's correlated with our feelings of desire. And so literally your blood flow changes within your body when you are feeling stressed. And so what I want to sort of kick off with here is just know that when you're in this stress environment, when that is sort of taking over your life, you're going to be in this survival mode, and that's not good for the bedroom. All right, so what can we do now to sort of navigate around this? So the first thing you can do is interrupt the stress loop. So it's interesting, like if I find one of my kids, I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And so it's very common, particularly for the 3-year-old, to get into, let's say, a pattern, right? Maybe she woke up in a good way or a good mood, but then something happens and she's just spiraling downward. And so normally what I have to do or my wife has to do is essentially break the pattern, right? Like get her to focus on something else, and then she quickly forgets why she was even upset. And so the same thing holds true here, that if you find yourself in this stress pattern, if you're in this stress loop, be intentional, be deliberate about breaking that loop. And something that you'll always hear me talking about on this YouTube channel, on our podcast, really anything related to Coelle, is focus on your breath work, right? So use this moment, if you're realizing that you are under stress, to just simply dial in to yourself, focus on your breath work, focus on coherent breathing, which you've heard me advocate on this channel many times. Coherent breathing, essentially, you can do 4x6 breathing, where it's for 4 seconds you inhale, and then 6 seconds you exhale. If you can get into this pattern just by focusing on your breath, you are going to break that stress loop. If you don't want to do breath work, if that's sort of maybe, let's say, uncomfortable to you, then you know yourself better than anybody else. So do something, engage in something that's going to allow you to, one, acknowledge that you're in a loop, but then finding an intentional way to break that loop. All right, let's talk about number two. So number two here is to start with closeness and not arousal. So often in times like this, if you find yourself in this stress loop or you're just overwhelmed, again, your desire is going to be a little bit off because all the things we talked about earlier with cortisol and your blood flow changes. So it's not that you need to be in pursuit of intimacy. In fact, your body probably doesn't necessarily want intimacy, but what it's going to want is safety. And so if you can be honest with your feelings, if you can share that with your partner and simply just carve out time to be close, maybe that's snuggling, maybe that's just curling up together, and maybe more will emerge from there. But understand that in that moment, you need to know, your partner needs to know that it's not necessarily intimacy that you need right then and there. It's more about closeness, and more specifically, it's about safety. So see if you can actually create that opportunity for yourself to help, again, get past this stress stage. Or maybe this is something you need to continue for a season, whether it's a short-term thing or a long-term thing. But again, seeking safety and closeness is going to be more advantageous for you than necessarily just going out and seeking intimacy. All right, let's talk about number 3. So number 3 here is to use touch like a reset button. And so what I mean by this is to really focus on nervous system touch. So in other words, these are just those gentle touches on the back, on the forehand. Again, not touch that is there or intended to create intimacy or arousal, but again, it's this touch that really kind of stems back from what we just talked about, which is, again, closeness and safety. And so if you can do that, it's going to sort of activate the C-tactile fibers that really are sort of corresponded or relate to the idea of comfort and, again, safety. And so if you can practice touch in a way that it can accomplish that goal of, again, safety, that's going to be your friend when trying to get yourself out of this stress sort of environment or this stress mindset. All right, let's begin to wrap this up. So at the end of the day, stress is a killer of desire. It's a killer of intimacy. And when you don't manage it, if you're not aware of it, it can continue to wreak havoc on you and your relationship. And so understand that stress, it does change our body chemistry. I mean, again, it can have disastrous sort of effects on who we are as human beings. And so if you can heighten your level of awareness and be aware of when it's actually happening, and then practice these different techniques that we're talking about, which is, again, just simply loving yourself and creating environments where you can center back in, you can reset, you can feel safe. It's going to help you get past that hurdle that we all call stress. All right. One other thing, kind of a shameless plug here. There are plenty of sessions within Coelle. So if you're looking to practice your breath work, I would recommend download Coelle, find one of the energy and touch sessions, and there you're going to find a lot of opportunities to actually practice breath work. There's also the couples care section where you and your partner can really just dial into each other, where there are no expectations. You're not focusing on outcomes. You're just there to be in each other's presence. And I think any one of those sessions will, again, help you navigate through these stressful times if that's where you find yourself. All right. As always, appreciate your support. And remember this, intimacy is not automatic, it's guided.